Hello, my friends. It's your friend Kyle Hunt, and it is another episode of Remodelers on the Rise. Excited to be here with you today. How are you doing? Everything good? When I say how are you doing, when somebody asks you how are you doing, or when you lazily ask how are you doing, like I just did, it is good to slow down and actually engage in that conversation. How are you doing? We are well into our way for 2023. And as the year is settling in, it is good for you to take stock of how are you doing? How are things on the business front? Sure. How are things going on the home front? How are things going on relationships? How are things going? Remember when you were fired up at the start of the year and you felt that newness of the year and you set some goals, perhaps even some resolutions. You talked about how this year I am going to accomplish fill in the blank. How are you doing with that? It is good to take stock of that. It is good to review that. And it's good to kind of refocus and re energize around that. I wasn't planning on saying any of that, but as we started up, I said, "How are you doing?" And I think sometimes we just answer it with, "I'm doing good. I'm doing fine." Make sure you dig a little deeper. Really think about that. When you ask somebody else something like that, make sure you're talking about real things, not just surfacey things. Life is more meaningful, enjoyable, and dare I say, fun when we get past the surface and when we actually talk about meaningful, real things. So next time you ask, "How you doing?" Make sure you respond to that. To have the person respond to you, or if somebody asks you that, you can say, "Do you want me just to say, yeah, I'm good?" Or do you actually want me to truly answer that question? Because that's going to take a little bit of thought. All right. And if you're watching this live, what is something that you've accomplished so far this year that you're kind of excited about or happy about? I wouldn't mind getting this party started with some live comments on that. So, what we're doing for today's show is we're actually focusing on something called a core pillar. And in particular, we're focusing on the core pillar of financials. And what I'm going to do every 2 months is do a little recap of what has gone on in the really the key core program that I offer in my coaching called the VIP Club. You may have heard of it. We did a lot of promoting for it back at the tail end of last year in November, December. We've got a great group of remodelers from across the country that are participating in it and that are enjoying it thus far. And I thought it'd be a good show every 2 months as we have made our way through a core pillar, just to do a nice little teaching and training on what we covered and to get you thinking. Maybe you're listening to this and you're not part of the VIP club. This still will get you thinking on some key areas and topics of your business and hopefully inspire you to make good forward progress. So as I navigate through the year with the VIP club, I see your remodeling business as having six core pillars. Six core pillars. Those core pillars are financials. Number two, production. Number three, your sales process. Number four, your marketing. Number five, your team. And number six, kind of your planning and mindset. And that's kind of the order in which we're going to attack it in the VIP club. So we started with this first core pillar of financials, which is a lot of the foundation of what your business is doing, how successful it is, how stressful or not stressful it is, etc. So I'm going to kind of walk you through what we've done in the last 2 months, and my hope is that you'll have some takeaways as we go through it. So we started with a quarterly goal setting session, And one thing that we're aiming to do is at the start of each quarter, let's step back and let's think about what am I truly going to accomplish this upcoming quarter. Not that I'm just going to haphazardly throw something out there and kind of hope it's going to happen, but I'm going to think about my situation, my life, my business, and I'm going to decide what am I intentionally going to accomplish this upcoming quarter. You don't put on this quarterly goal, I'm going to finish that proposal that I've been putting off. Yeah, you're going to finish that, but that's not what we're after here. We're talking about something solid, maybe substantial, maybe not crazy substantial, but something that you're truly going to achieve. And the way that we approach that is we kind of consider different areas of life or business that this goal could be related to. It could be business related. In this case, a lot of the VIP club members, mostly because I was encouraging them to kind of start by focusing on a business related goal, ended up selecting a business related quarterly goal. But some people chose a goal related to their physical and health. Some had some parental or marital goals. Some had some spiritual or faith goals. Some had some social goals with friends or family or hobbies. And this is a good thing for each one of you listening to the recording or watching live. Think about, what are you trying to achieve this current quarter or in the upcoming quarter? And let's get specific about it. Let's get clear on why you want to focus on that goal. Let's list out a few of the steps that you're going to need to take in order to get there. Let's give ourselves a little bit of clarity on exactly what you're going to achieve and a little bit of a deadline next to it. And then what I encourage my VIP club members to do is make sure you have a little fun with this and also have a reward that's attached to it. How are you going to reward yourself when you complete this goal? Oh man, there were massages, there were weekends away, there was an overnight away, there was a new golf club, there was a new fishing pole. There was just kind of some fun things. I have found and I have learned that to have a little reward at the end of accomplishing a goal helps us stay focused on it and stay motivated on it. So you might be able to try that. So that's how we started the VIP Club, is with a quarterly goal setting. People are making progress on it. They're achieving it. And then starting in April, we're going to do that again and create a new quarterly goal. All right. So that was at the start of it. And then we got into training related to the core pillar. So like I said, each core pillar, there's about 2 months that we focus in on it. January and February was related to financials. So we started by digging into a little bit of a financial overview. And I did some training related to financial dials that you can adjust to dial in your numbers. Financial dials that you can adjust to dial in your numbers. And just in a way that hopefully will be helpful for you, and in a way of kind of recapping it, what I had everybody do is take a spreadsheet that was prepared and do a little bit of a summary of their last 3 years big picture financials. And when I say big picture financials, think of your profit and loss statement. We have our total sales at the top. Go ahead and put your total sales in there for 2020, 2021, and 2022. And also your goal of what you're looking to do there in 2023. Now let's look at our cost of goods sold. Plug in the actual numbers from 2020, 2021, 2022, and what the goal is related to 2023. And that leaves you your gross profit. What has your gross profit been the last 3 years? Let's do a little financial overview. Let's do a little financial recap. And also, what is your goal this upcoming year? So those are the key ones at the top. Total sales minus cost of goods sold equals gross profit. And then we had our overhead expenses, which we also got clear with how much you were already paying yourself in your overhead expenses as the owner. And then we had our net profit. When you do this, when you take the time to create just a summary next to each other of your main metrics over the last 3 years, and you start to reflect on that, how did my sales go from here up to here? What changed there? Why is my gross profit, why was it higher 2 years ago than it is now? For example, if you were swinging the hammer 2 years ago as the owner of the business, that may have elevated your gross profit a bit. And as you've now taken yourself out of the field and you have all of your employees doing it, that may have knocked your gross profit percentage down a little bit. We started to analyze it and say, time out. You have a 1.67 markup, which should yield a 40% gross profit margin. Why am I seeing 32%? Last year, why am I seeing 32% as your gross profit? You got slippage there. Tell me about that. And it was a very interesting to see what others in the group had, to learn from each other, to see a bunch of different examples of other remodelers and where their numbers were coming in at, and really casting a vision of what your 2023 numbers are going to be, and most importantly, how you're going to get there. What are you going to do to drive up or down total sales based on your goal? What are you going to do to drive up your gross profit and drive down your cost of goods sold? Have you really looked into your overhead expenses? And I know you added that selections coordinator halfway through the year last year, and that cost you $30,000 last year. You've got a full year of having that person on your team this year. That's going to increase your overhead expenses. Have you thought through that? Have you planned through that? Have you gone through every line item of your overhead expenses, advertising and insurance and CPA and coaching and all of the different line items? And have you really wrestled with that so you know what your overhead is and what's your goal for net profit? People had all kinds of clarity, all kinds of takeaways, and clear things that they have already been working on and that they're going to continue to work on in the weeks and months ahead. When we talk about a core pillar of financials, this is an area, this is a foundational area of your remodeling business. And you need to understand and know your numbers. Okay. So that was a great training that we did. If you have any questions as we cruise through, I'd love to get a couple comments. So that was one of the trainings in January. And then the next meeting that we had, again, I'm just kind of recapping these first 2 months of the VIP Club, giving you an understanding of that, and also giving you a little bit of some ideas and some things that you could be doing in your remodeling business as well. The next meeting we had as part of the VIP Club was called the Dream Team. We're actually doing this again this afternoon, as a matter of fact. And the way that this is shaped for the VIP Club this year is that a VIP Club member and 3 other members are going to really get to know each other this year. Every month, there's going to be a scheduled meeting. Everybody logs in on Zoom. They hear me go hooting, hollering, give them a little idea, tell them what they should focus on in their conversation today. And then everybody goes into their respective breakout rooms. What was really cool about this, I mean, when you're starting a new group, you're getting to know each other a little bit. And I'm already hearing about a text message between one of the VIP Club members and the 3 other ones. They're sharing ideas. They're asking each other for feedback. I saw an email exchange of them sharing a contract and, hey, how do you do this and how do you do that? It's amazing when you realize that you're not out there on your own, that other people are going through similar things. And what I'm really excited about for the VIP Club related to the Dream Teams is everybody in the VIP Club, we're getting together in person in Michigan in May. We're going to spend a couple days together. We're going to tour a remodeler up here in Michigan. And we're going to spend 2 days of just focused time on that's going to be in the sales core pillar, bringing in some outside guests, et cetera. And I just know that as the year progresses, that the relationships will deepen and become even more and more valuable to them. So that was a Dream Team. And then we also did something called a coaching gym. And what this is hopping on Zoom and saying, hey, it's Kyle here. I'm a bit of an expert coach over here. I got a lot of experience. I got a little knowledge in my brain. There's other people on this call that also have a lot of knowledge. What's on your mind? What are problems you're struggling with? And we hit on 8 to 10 just really good topics. What's always interesting is even if you don't have a topic that you bring to the table, by hearing what others are going through, by hearing the feedback from others, by you sharing it, it sharpens your insight, it sharpens your approach, it motivates you to look into that for your business, encourages you if you're on the right path or if you need a kick in the butt. And we just had a really great time. Bailey sent these over. These are all the takeaways just from the coaching gym. I mean, we talked about leaning into healthy conflict, talked about getting processes dialed in, needing to tighten up our lead times, to measure the cycle time from the time they sign the design agreement to the time they sign the contract. We need to measure that so that we can reduce that cycle time. Just a lot of good stuff there. Cool. So that was that. And then another training that we did in January was related to job costing. Again, we're on the financials core pillar. So we looked at all of the different dials that you can dial in to improve your financials. And you betcha, if we're going to spend a couple months of training on financials, we're going to talk about job costing. And I brought as much heat as I possibly could related to job costing. What everybody needs to be reminded of when it comes to job costing is that job costing has just a tremendous ripple effect. When you are watching closely what you are expecting to make in gross profit on a project, and you have your system dialed in where you're able to see what you actually made in gross profit, and you're watching that closely, the ripple effect is higher profitability. 100% of the time in my 15 years of coaching, it definitely has led to greater profits. It helps you become a better estimator. When you are watching your job costing closely, you see the things that you underbid. You didn't give that enough hours. You put in there 25 hours for that little phase. It ended up being 35. And it wasn't because your team in the field were knuckleheads. You just underbid it. And that ate into your gross profit. And when we're watching our job costing closely, you see that and you correct that on the next proposal, on the next estimate. It helps you be a tremendously improved estimator. It helps you be a better salesperson. When you're confident in your numbers and you know what you need to charge in order to achieve the goals, and your budget, et cetera, in your business, you sell differently. You sell more confidently. You don't think I'm not overcharging. If anything, I might still be a little underpriced. I'm worth every single penny here, and I know these numbers are accurate. So there's a ripple effect that job costing does. You become a better project manager. Holy cow. When you are paying close attention to your job costing and you realize that those 4 trips to the lumberyard this week, that should have been 2 trips to the lumberyard if we would have just done a little bit more preparation, and you realize that that costs you hundreds of dollars, and you realize that that is slippage on your overall project, you or your project manager or your lead carpenter, when people are bought into job costing, our project management and our timeliness and preparation and keeping the job on schedule, all of that improves. Man, was I hammering into the VIP club about this, and just a lot of clarity and a lot of clear next steps. When you look at any area of your business and there's room for improvement, one of the key things that you need to identify is, what is the next right thing for me to work on? What is the next right thing for me to work on? Break it down into something small and that you can actually achieve. So when you think about job costing, part of the lesson that we went through are the different pieces that you need in order to effectively do your job costing. A lot of people, they are able to produce a list of all of the trade partner expenses that were on a project. That's usually pretty clear and easy to run a report out of whatever system you use. But sometimes materials are not as organized as they should be. If we are getting a receipt back from a team member who ordered some materials, went to the lumber yard and got some materials, and it's not clearly labeled and tagged for that specific job, and it just goes into our system, goes into QuickBooks as materials, but not tied to that job, boy, we've lost a lot of ability to understand the profitability of these projects. So for some people, they need to clean up their process and their system related to trade partners or materials. For a lot of people, it was the in-house labor that was really fuzzy. You need clear tracking on your in-house labor, number of hours, what they were doing during those hours. And also, you need to understand your full employee labor burden in order to have accurate job costing. So as we went through the pieces that we needed during this VIP Club training, everybody had some type of next step to move them from where they are to having stronger job costing. And I've seen a lot of progress related to that. Cool. So that was all of January. That was all of January. Sounds fun, isn't it? Sounds cool. If you ever have questions about the VIP club, don't hesitate to reach out. We got a little bit of a waiting list. We got maybe the second half of the year, we might open up a couple slots. So feel free to reach out. And if I were to get a comment from the live people, what is a takeaway that you've had from what I've shared so far? And or when you think of this core pillar of your business, financials, what's something that you know you need to focus on and improve? Things that we need to work on or goals are much, much, much more likely to happen when we actually write it down, when we actually type it out. So I'll give you that chance to do that in the comments here. Wonderful. And then let me kind of just recap a little bit of February as well. Something that I noticed last year when I kicked off the VIP Club for the first year, in the fall event, there's 2 in-person events, one in May and one in October. And in October last year, I brought in 2 guest speakers. And I thought to myself, wow, the VIP Club members are probably not going to enjoy that time as much because they're not going to get to hear me talk. And then based on the feedback, I realized, wait a minute, they don't not like me, but they really like these guest speakers because both of them are really good. So I took a little humility pill, and I said to myself, Kyle, you don't need to carry all the weight, man. They hear your voice enough, bring some outside experts in. And I'm doing a lot more of that this year on all of our trainings. So in early February, earlier this month, I brought in Paul J. McManus. You know him, you love him. He's very active in Remodelers community. If you are a part of that private Facebook group, it's free to join. Go to Remodelers with an S community.com. Paul's very active and generous in there, and he prepared a really solid lesson on estimating. When we think of the core pillar of financials, the more I train on it, the more I talk about it, the more I identify challenges that my clients and remodelers are having when it comes to improving their financial results. Wow, does a lot of it come back to estimating? And a lot of you probably are nodding your head at that are listening to the recording or live. When our estimating is not as detailed as it should, when our estimating is not as systematic as we could make it, where we've really got solid templates, when we're not getting quotes from our trade partners up front to really solidify what that cost is going to be for a plumber or electrician, and instead we're guesstimating. When we're not really digging in and getting selections made and finalized, our estimating side of our business is where a lot of money is made or lost. And Paul gave my VIP Club members a really good view of what an exceptional estimating system looks like, the amount of detail, the process in which he creates his catalog and the approach to it. It was a really, really helpful training. So that was excellent. Going back to a little question here: does job costing just focus on gross profit? Jim, I usually emphasize that part. I emphasize it pretty heavily. But it could also just simply be focused on the cost of goods sold part of it. So if I if I'm expecting $12,000 of material cost on a project, that's my expected cost of a project, materials on a project, and I'm watching that closely, and it ends up at $13,000. I thought it was going to be 12. It ended up as a cost of $13,000. I'm not even talking about gross profit in this case. I'm just talking about sheer cost. What I know is I've got $1,000 of slippage on those materials. It ended up costing me an extra $1,000 more than what I was expecting it to make. Now that eats into gross profit. That takes a big old bite, $1,000 bite out of gross profit. And hopefully you've got enough markup and margin built into the project that it doesn't turn into negative net profit overall. Hopefully you're following me there. But it could just be cost. It could be you're comparing expected versus actual cost. I a lot of times take our expected versus actual cost, and I also like to factor in what we are expecting to make in gross profit so that we can see both of those things. But it doesn't have to just focus on gross profit. That's a good question. Cool. So we did a lot of estimating. When you think of that for you, your estimating system, what is the next step that you need to work on related to that? Are you wanting to get out of Excel into something more sophisticated, trying to move it to a job trend or a builder trend or a clear estimates estimating software? Do you need to really work on fine tuning your template? Do you need to work on that full catalog so you can go through on that kitchen model and kind of decide, you have all the different options that could go into this estimate, and you can just go yes, no, 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 yes, yes, no, 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 yes, no, and you make sure that you're thinking through all the different elements that could go into your estimating. Estimating is something that I find that my clients are not naturally gifted at, and sometimes we just kind of shy away from it. Guess what? Estimating is work. It is work, and it's a never-ending piece of your business that you're always going to work to improve. The question is, are you really actively working to improve it? Or is your estimating just as sophisticated and kind of sort of detailed as it was 3 years ago? Your estimating spreadsheets, your estimating approach, your estimating system should always be something you're working to improve. Oh, you forgot that on that last estimate? How are you going to ensure that that doesn't happen again on your future estimates? And going back to job costing, that's a huge part of it. So that was related to estimating. And then last week we did another little bit of a workshop, and it was related to understanding and optimizing the taxes you pay. This is an area that I'm a student, and I just really love digging into understanding how our taxes work. What I really mentioned to the VIP club was, I don't need you to know how to file your 1041 return or your 1040 return. You have a CPA, you have people that can achieve that for you. But do you understand the difference between, your total income versus your taxable income? Do you understand standard deduction versus itemized deduction? Do you understand what this qualified business deduction is, this QBI is, and how that impacts things? Do you understand why you're an S corp? And have you wrestled and talked to your CPA about how much you need to be taken in salary versus pass through income? Do you understand the tax benefit of having pass through income and how that saves you over 15% in Social Security and Medicare when you do pass through income? Again, I don't need you to understand how you do and file your taxes, but I need you to understand how your taxes work, how it's a marginal tax. We did just a really solid training and an in-depth training on this. We talked about how to optimize the taxes you pay, smart and wise ways to do that. Talked about some creative ways to do it. And everybody left fired up about taxes, fired up about all of these numbers that a lot of times are pretty murky to them. So that was last week's training. And Jim said, related to estimating, building a cost book is proving to be daunting. Yeah. Remember when I said 5 minutes ago, you know what estimating is? It's stinking hard. It's stinking hard. Paul talked about that. Some people, he shared kind of his catalog and his cost book a bit. And, what he prefaced it with was, hey, I'll send you this, but what you have to realize is you can't just plug and play somebody else's. It takes work to create it. And what he was really encouraging people on is like, just start with something. It's the same thing for you, Jim. Like, start with something. You have a lot of costs that you've thought through there. You've already got a lot of those details. Now let's organize that. Let's put that into one spot where we can start working off of it. And then one other big estimating thing that came out of it is there is a lot of work that your plumber does, your tiler does, your drywall person does, HVAC, electrical. What Paul does and what several VIP club members have already been taking steps on is work with those key trades and have them give you a price for the 80% of things that they I'm going to say recurringly. Is that a word? Recurringly do. And now all of a sudden, it is a lot easier for you to pull prices in on a lot of the different line items. They appreciate it because it makes their estimating a little bit easier. You work with them, you go back and forth, you update that maybe a couple times a year, but it can cut down on a lot of the back and forth and a lot of the work for your trades and for you. It's a best practice that makes a whole lot of sense. And a lot of people are doing it, and it's helping them. So that's another way you start to approach your cost book, Jim. Cool. So my friends, that is what I wanted to cover today, is just to kind of recap the first 2 months of the VIP club, and in particular, the core pillar related to financials. Hopefully by recapping it, a couple things happened. One, you might be a little bit more familiar with this VIP club. And I hope that as I do this throughout the year, every 2 months, when I say, hey, everybody, it's time for the 2024 VIP Club. Are you interested? You'll probably have a lot better understanding of the type of work that we're doing in that and the type of coaching and training we're doing. So that's cool. And then in particular for today, hopefully by us talking through the financial dials, talking through job costing, talking through estimating, and the different topics that I recapped, I would hope and anticipate that you grabbed a takeaway or two, but ideally just one, that you're actually going to do something with. You're going to implement. You're going to take some action on it. Because, folks, you got enough ideas. You need to prioritize those ideas, and you need to take the precious minutes that you have to work on your business, and you need to put full focus on fewer things, full focus on the top item that you need to work on and streamline. Don't try to work on 6 process improvement things at a time. Get one in your sights, get one dialed in, and really, really focus on it. That's some coaching advice. Kyle, if we pay you for coaching, what do you end up doing? We talk about priorities. We do some training. I get you focused on what you need to work on next. I get your butt having a deadline to it, and then we get it done. And you get some guidance on it. So that's what I'm doing here as part of this wonderful free Remodelers on the Rise show. Hope you got some value from it. Feel free to review. Throw a little review out there on your favorite podcast app. That helps your fellow remodelers see it, and I would appreciate that. And feel free to reach out anytime. You can go to remodellersontherise.com and hear all about the things that we offer and get some other free guidance and ideas as well. That's all I got. Catch y'all later. Bye.